Hey everybody, welcome back to another Triple Hound video. And back when I was a kid in the very early 1980s, there was a television show called Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, they introduced a new superhero named Firestar. And of course, by now, almost 40 years later or whatever, Firestar has been used by Marvel in comic books and other media. But for the sake of this video, I am going to make a custom Fortnite skin for Firestar, based primarily on the Firestar I remember from the 1981, 1982 television show. But that's not all. Of course, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends is plural. There is more than one friend in the television show, and the other primary friend of Spider-Man in the television show was Iceman. So I am going to make Firestar and Iceman from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in this YouTube video. We're going to start with the Joltara skin, which is one of the Boundless customizable superhero skins in the game. And if you've watched any of my custom Fortnite skin videos, you know that these are basically skins where you can pick a different pattern on their uniform and change the color and hairstyle and masks and a bunch of other little variables. And for this one, we are going to use the suit pattern Stalwart, head style, hairstyle A, eye mask on, and belt off. And if you look at pictures of Firestar, especially from all the way back in that very early television show, she is basically entirely yellow with darker boots and darker gloves with kind of a fire theme to them. There's no real way to get a darker color on her boots or her gloves without also putting it somewhere else on her uniform. And the Stalwart outfit was my best way to do that without making the color too obvious in a bunch of other places as well. Our primary material is spandex and our primary color is orange, and that's what puts that ever so slightly darker color on her glove, which you can kind of see there a little bit, and on her boots, which you can sort of see at the bottom of the screen. But it also puts it around her sort of midsection there, and you can see it, can't see it really well because of her hair, but puts it up on her chest as well. And I chose this color, this orange color, as the primary color because it wasn't too intrusive. The real Firestar character has sort of a darker red or a darker orange color on those places, but in order to do that here, I would have to also kind of agree to have it on her midsection. And even though the red on her boots and the red on her gloves looks good, that on her midsection really clashes with the way she looked in the cartoon. So I thought this was kind of the happy medium. It made it a little bit darker, but not so dark as to be distracting. Secondary material is also spandex, and for this we went with mustard. It's that color that she has really on her entire body in the cartoon. Accessory color is red. You want to give her a red eye mask. No eye effects or eye color, although if you wanted to give her fiery eyes in the moment, you could certainly put eye effects on with the color red. Looks like she's all fired up at this moment. That works for some versions of her, so feel free to do that if you like. No skin tint, but you do want to give her the hair tint color of red. She has sort of long, bright red hair, and the only way you can get that with these Boundless skins is by putting a hair tint on it. It's not quite the same because the top of her hair, her roots basically, are still very dark. So it's certainly not perfect. I will grant you that. But it's as good as we're going to get it. And for a sticker, you can go with Hot Drop. That puts some fire type thing on her chest. It's not bad. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. She really doesn't have anything on there. It's just an entirely yellow outfit with some fire stuff around the edges. So you can go with none, or you can go with Hot Drop. I gave her the Phoenix Force as a back bling. Of course, she isn't a Phoenix carrying character for the most part. For those of you who know sort of Marvel lore and what the Phoenix is and how it affects Jean Grey and some other people, but it works in terms of creating fire around her. If you look at her straight on, it kind of just looks like she's got fire coming off of her, and that works pretty well. Similarly, the Phantasmic Pulse, if you give it yellows and oranges and reds and types of colors like that, the Phantasmic Pulse is a customizable pickaxe that kind of puts this energy stuff off of their hand, and you can make it look pretty much like fire. I used the custom cruiser here, this is kind of my default glider for custom skins if there's nothing much better. And for her, there really isn't anything much better. So I use this glider, which basically just takes whatever you have as a banner and sticks it on the carapace of a normal glider otherwise. And so I gave her a flame banner. You can see down here in the bottom left corner. I gave her a flame banner against an orange backdrop, and that then appears on the custom cruiser glider. For a contrail, I gave her lava. It's the closest thing I have to a fire-based contrail. I know there is a better, more exactly fire contrail. I don't have it, so I used lava. Triangles, similarly, is what I used for a wrap. Again, I know there is a better fire type wrap, and if you have a better fire type wrap, by all means use it. Skullfire here from Ghost Rider character is one that's pretty damn good. So if you have this one, maybe this is the one you want to use instead. Cyberdyne Salute is really the only one that you actually have to do for her because it makes her hand on fire. It's a Terminator emote, but you really, if you've got it, use it because this puts obviously a bunch of fire on her. It's really quite perfect. Raising Phoenix is another one where she kind of bursts into flames up in the air. That's not bad for her. That works pretty well as well. I just use Hot Drop. I mean, nobody uses those types of emotes for the most part, but whatever. And that is how we made Firestar. Let's jump into making Iceman, Spider-Man's other amazing friend. For Iceman, we used the Hunter skin, and as you can see here, he is pretty straightforward. I bet you can guess basically how to make him just by looking at him. He looks an awful lot like the Silver Surfer, but Iceman does, so that's just gonna have to be the way it is. I'll go through his preset first, and for a backbling I gave him Frosty, which is the ice llama thing. There are a bunch of different ice sculpture type backblings you can use. I just used the Frosty llama. Cold Dagger Pack is maybe a little much for Iceman. He's sort of known as being a nicer, lighthearted guy. Obviously, he's still a superhero, so he fights and uses his powers and stuff, but I don't recall him ever using his ice to make like a dagger. Rosebud is a frozen flower. Maybe he could use that. Glacial Backpack, this sort of diamond-shaped one. Anyways, you've got options here. Some of the other sets have different ice sculpture type backblings that I don't have, so maybe you see one of those that you want to use instead. The Ice Carver Harvesting Tool is pretty perfect. Iceman, of course, is known for, you know, making stuff out of ice. He can create ice with his hands or whatever, so this works pretty well for him. The Snowmando board glider I like. So Iceman is maybe most famous for kind of making an ice path that he glides on or skates on. It's his version of flying, if you will. The Snowmando board is the closest I could get to that theme. It's kind of the right color, and it has sort of icy frozenness around him, so it works in a lot of ways. You could, of course, use the Silver Surfer's surfboard, which is also the right color, but I just thought this had the more cold look to it that I was looking for. Plasma Trail, again, is just sort of the right color. If you kind of squint, you can think of this as an ice type thing. If you have actual ice or snow or something as a contrail, feel free to use that. I don't really have anything perfect. I had a couple of things that looked sort of cold to me, but none of them looked quite as much like ice as this one does to me. Snow Steel as a wrap, again, just trying to capture a light, cold type look. Charging Up was a recent anime crossover emote, and the reason I like this is because in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, the cartoon I keep talking about, the way Iceman would turn into Iceman is his normal-looking alter ego guy would, call out his own name, because that's what they did back in those days. Iceman! And then he would, shoot this ice block around him, and then he would burst out of the ice block as Iceman. He would just point his hands at the ground and, shoot this block of ice up around him. Then he would burst out of the ice block as Iceman. And this basically reminds me of him bursting out of an ice block as Iceman. So that was a really long, sort of drawn out explanation for why I like this emote. Airplane, again, the idea of him sort of skating along on an ice path, this kind of reminds me of that. Snow Shaker, again, another sort of cold, seasonal type thing. He's making ice sort of appear out of nowhere. And the Rasen Shuriken is another anime crossover emote that I think kind of works for him. He looks like he's building a ball of what could be ice in his hands. I know it's a bit of a stretch. He is building actual energy here, but I'm going to pretend that that's ice. And on to making the skin itself. I used the hunter skin, but you can sort of use any of the male customizable Boundless skins. Suit pattern, stalwart, head style, full mask. Eye mask doesn't really matter, and belt off. Some versions of Iceman have his face and kind of hair more exposed and just sort of the ice version of those things. So instead of having what appears to be a silver mask or a bald ice head as it was in the original Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends television show, they have a face sort of like this but an icy version. So maybe you want to try that and replicate it by having hairstyle C and his face out and just changing his skin and hair color to more of an icy look to them. Maybe you like this better where he's got kind of an icy face and an icy hair. The trouble with this for me anyways is that in almost all versions of Iceman, the ice on his face is the same as the ice on the rest of his body, so he's an entirely crystallized type like ice person, and there's really just no way to make colors on the uniform match his head if you do it this way. I'll go back and show you. Even if you decide to go like this, see, that's way too dark. That's not icy anymore. This is still pretty dark. Tried different patterns here, but it's far more blue than the face is. You're kind of stuck with these icier colors here in order to make his body look like ice. And because of that, I just really couldn't talk myself into any of the sort of the open face versions of Iceman. But if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. It's your game. And if that's the Iceman you want to make, that's certainly an option. If you put on the full mask, he looks very close to how he looked way back in the television show where his face was entirely bald and icy. The only thing missing here is that the Iceman in the television show, his mouth was visible. Oh, you know, here's a happy medium. Maybe you do this or something. But again, the fact that his skin stands out as so blue against the otherwise icy backdrop to me is distracting. And with that, you want to make the primary material plastic and the primary color platinum, secondary material metallic, and the secondary color is white. And what those two things do when put together is it makes the entire outfit basically the same color. You can't use white for both because that's against Fortnite's rules. Fortnite doesn't want any all white or all black customized skins because it considers those skins to be an unfair advantage in the game. It basically thinks that if you are all white, you can stand still and blend in with lighter backgrounds and become sort of almost invisible. Similarly, if you're wearing an all black costume and you're hiding in a shadowy area, you become almost invisible to other players. So instead, they make it that you've got to kind of work around it by using combinations of materials and colors to make them close. And that's what we do here. Primary material, plastic and platinum. So the plastic platinum combination is very close to the white metallic combination if you looked at them closely, and you can see a difference, but it makes it very hard to tell the difference. And it makes the entire outfit almost entirely silver and icy. Accessory color doesn't really matter. Eye color, white. Again, if you wanted to make him sort of seem like he's got some kind of cold, icy thing going on, you can put his eye effects on, but it's not necessary. You just saw me play with the skin tint and hair tint, which is why these things are often the blue territory, but there's no need to play with them if you're going to use the full mask version. And of course, no sticker, unless you've got some ice sticker that you're really in love with that you want to stick on his chest, by all means. I don't have anything like that, so I didn't. And we already talked about his preset, so I don't need to go back into that. And that is how we made Iceman and Firestar from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, a 1980-1981 type television show. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and check us out on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. I don't post a whole lot on the other social media all that often, but you know, follow us anyways. Maybe we will. More often than not, we're just sharing our friends' live streams and stuff like that. So, but check us out and use code TripleHound in the Fortnite item shop or Epic Games Store. #ad. Yeah, and as I always say kind of at the end of these things, if you guys have suggestions for other custom Fortnite skins you'd like to see, please do drop them down in the comments below, and we will check them out. We don't make every suggestion that people drop for us, because sometimes we just can't. The suggestions are good, but we just can't figure out how to get the right customizable options in place to make it look accurate. And if we can't make it look accurate, we usually don't post a video on it. Or if we can't make it at least a little bit accurate, we usually don't post a video on it. But that doesn't mean the idea is bad. We love to see all the ideas, even if we can't make videos. And so keep them coming. Thank you so much for watching again, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.